Today, we're going to talk about a payment system that is quietly but completely changing the game in digital finance. It's coming out of India, and honestly, it challenges pretty much everything we in the West think we know about how money is supposed to move. Look, we all use these apps, right? You Venmo your friend for dinner, you use PayPal for shopping, Zelle to send some cash to your family. It feels instant, it feels easy. It kind of feels like the problem is solved. But what if I told you that these apps we love are just one way of looking at digital payments, and that there's a totally different, and you could argue, way more powerful model out there? Okay, so let's get right to the heart of it. The apps we know, PayPal, Venmo, you name it, are private products. They're built and owned by private companies. India's UPI, on the other hand, stands for Unified Payments Interface, and it's something totally different. It's public infrastructure. And that one little distinction, well, that's the key to everything. So to really get what makes UPI so special, we first have to kind of pull back the curtain on the world we're living in now. The apps we use, they create this really powerful illusion that instant payments are a done deal. But how they get that instant feeling, that's the important part. Let's break down the model we're all used to. When you send money with something like PayPal, it doesn't just zap from your bank account directly into your friends. First, it goes into a digital wallet that's owned by the company. Your money is basically sitting in their system, a middle layer, before it gets moved along. And this is why UPI is such a mind bender. It's not a wallet. There is no middle layer. A UPI app opens a direct pipe, a real-time connection from your bank account straight to the other person's bank account. The money moves instantly with no company holding it in between. So if UPI isn't really an app, then what on earth is it? Well, the best way to think about it is like a piece of national infrastructure. You know, like a public utility, but built specifically for money. Okay, here's the most important takeaway. UPI is the highway system, built by the National Payments Corporation of India to connect every single bank. Apps you've heard of like Google Pay or huge ones in India like PhonePe, they're just the cars. They're all different companies building their own cars that drive on the same public road. And because that road's a public utility, it's free for everyone to use. And that has massive implications. We're talking near zero fees, and it lets any startup build a car and compete on a totally level playing field. Now, you're probably thinking a system this revolutionary must be super complicated to use, right? Well, the real genius of UPI is how all this powerful plumbing in the background actually makes the experience for the user incredibly, ridiculously simple. This is where it gets amazing for the everyday person. UPI just makes all the usual complicated stuff for a bank transfer disappear. You don't need a long account number, a bank name, some confusing routing code. Nope. All you need is a simple ID that looks like an email address or just a phone number. Or, and this is by far the most popular way in India, you just scan a QR code. That simplicity is a complete game changer, especially for financial inclusion. It's brought millions of people into the digital economy with nothing more than a basic smartphone. Now, for anyone in the US, you might be thinking, hey, this sounds a lot like Zelle. And yeah, on the surface, you're right. They both do fast bank-to-bank transfers. But when you start to look under the hood, you realize they were built with two totally different philosophies. When you look at how they're built, the differences are huge. Zelle is great, don't get me wrong, but it was basically bolted on top of older banking networks like ACH. That's why it's technically near real-time, because transactions often get processed in batches. UPI, on the other hand, was built from scratch on a modern API-based system. It was designed from day one for what they call population hyperscale, the ability to handle billions of transactions instantly for over 1 billion people. And the best example of this power is when you look at Google Pay. In the US, it's a classic digital wallet. It's Google's private ecosystem. But in India, Google Pay is a totally different beast. It's forced to just be another car on the public UPI highway. This flips the script entirely. It's a world where the national infrastructure is so dominant that even a global tech giant has to play by its rules, not the other way around. And believe me, this isn't just a domestic success story that's staying put. The UPI model is so efficient and powerful that it's actually starting to be exported to the rest of the world. And that's not just some clickbaity headline. This quote really captures a genuine shift that's happening in the world of finance and tech. Let's look at the facts of how this system is actually expanding beyond India's borders. I mean, just look at the scope of this. UPI is already live in countries from France to the UAE. But maybe the most telling sign of all is the partnership with PayPal. Think about that. One of the original giants of the private product world is now plugging into UPI's public infrastructure to handle cross-border payments. That is a massive signal that the world is looking at this model as a blueprint for the future. So if we bring this all together, what does it all mean for the future of digital money? Well, it really represents a fundamental change in how we think about what money is. This right here is the core philosophy. The Western model has mostly treated digital payments as a product, something to be sold, usually with fees attached. The UPI model treats the movement of money as a basic public utility, like water or electricity. It's something that should be simple, secure, and free for every person to access, and for any company to build on top of. And that leaves us with one final, pretty provocative question. As the rest of the world searches for faster, cheaper, and more inclusive ways to move money around, is this Indian model, this open public highway for money, the blueprint we're all going to be using in the future? It's a fascinating thought.